So first things first, just testing the stove here. Make sure the wood stove's not leaking fumes all over the place here. We got our stovepipe in, and we've got the joints taped up with stovepipe tape. I can see the fumes on the outside of the tent coming out of the spark arrestor. Just watching this area here. Make sure we're not leaking any fumes right there, but everything looks pretty good right now. And so, I thought that while we were sitting here, we'd go ahead and finish up this canteen. I've pretty much got this buckle adjusted where I want it. And so all I've really done here is I've taken one side of the strap. I'll kind of undo this for you so you can see what I did here. If you remember the last video, we hand forged this buckle, and basically we just fed this strap through this canteen. And this is an old Thermador steel canteen. This is probably from Thermador started making canteens in 1916. They made Boy Scout canteens from the 1920s, 1930s all the way into the 40s. They made canteens for the war in the 40s as well. And I would say this is probably a late 40s model, mid 40s model. I have another Thermador that actually has U.S. Forest Service on the front of it. This one happens to have the wool covering on it. That one has canvas and says U.S. Forest Service on it. So this is probably from the 40s, that classic camping and woodcraft era of Kephart. And so basically I just fed this up through like this, and this is going to be the part that's going to be tacked down. And then I can adjust the other end of this strap through that buckle for length and then cut it off. So what I need to do now is I just need to sew this on here so that it can't come off. That's a pretty simple procedure. So we're just going to get ourselves some cotton thread here, or twine, whatever you want to call it. Get myself a little bit of a length of it here and cut it off with a pair of shears. And then I'm going to wax it real good. And I just use fixing wax for this. Works about the best for me. And I just take my twine and drag it through there basically. And this is really not a thread, this is more of a cotton twine. And I'm just going to drag it through that wax a little bit on both directions here. And then I'm going to thread it on a needle and get this sewn up. The wax just helps protect it. Also helps it slide through things easier, especially if you're sewing leather. This is a pretty large diameter material, and I have a fairly small sail needle here that I'm using, but it fits through it about right. Pull myself a tail on that dude just like this, come to this other end, and I'll make basically a double overhand stop knot there. That'll just keep it from coming out of the fabric. These non-romantic skills like sewing are pretty important for self-reliance. And now we really don't have to have this strap in the canteen right now. We can basically feed it out of there and set it aside just like this, and just work with the strap itself and understand that we need a little bit of overlap there. And I'm just putting my stitches about 1/4 of an inch apart. That part of it's really not a major league deal either way. And I'm going to go ahead and make my box probably, I don't know, 2 inches square, 1.5 inches square maybe, so it's the same, symmetrical, I guess if you want to call it that for lack of a better word, with the thickness of this strap itself, which is 1.5 inches wide. These sail needles work really well with cotton fabric. I'm a big fan. I don't think you need 100 needles, but I think if you got a selection of a couple different sail needles from the fairly small size to a little bit larger size that you can use to punch leather and things like that with, you're doing yourself a favor. Now we're going to go ahead and turn the corner right here to make our square, just like this. I won't bore you with this, it'll be like watching paint dry for a while here. Okay, so we've sewn a square here, and I've chased it back a couple times through the inside of that seam right there. There's no way that's going to come undone now. And again, it's going to look like this from the outside. So you got a stitch every 1/4 of an inch and a nice square pattern there, and it's going to be fine just like that. Okay, so now that we've got that portion of it done, we can get this back in our canteen. So we're going to have it hanging from this side, so we'll start on the opposite side and just feed it right through the loops, just like this. And we're going to want this buckle fairly close to the bottom there. Now we can just chase this through our buckle, just like this. Now we can tighten that thing down to whatever length we want. Give ourselves a little extra there for adjustment and then trim that off. Okay, so I'm thinking that thing's hanging right about hip level now. I want to give myself enough extra tail on here that if I want to adjust it up in case I'm wearing some bigger clothes, things like that, I've got it. But now I can come in here and kind of just cut that tail off. If I cut it off just a little bit longer than I really need it, I can tuck it back down inside itself right here. Or I can put some kind of a stay on here to tuck it into, but it's really not necessary. If it falls out, it's okay, but I think it'll stay in there pretty well, just like that, and ride pretty well. Well, folks, I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. I appreciate you joining me for this quick second part of our video that we forged our buckle for our Thermador canteen and then put our strap on it out here in the wall tent while we were getting the stove set up for the trappers camp. I appreciate your views. I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our family, and for our business, for all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends, and I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.